It's time for Talkin Tauntauns,
Star Wars discussion podcast from reviews of the latest shows and books to breaking news and thoughtful interviews. Join us as we dive into all things from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tauntauns. I am Jim Lahane, and joining me today, hold on, I wrote notes. I've never actually written any notes for the show before, because I've discovered as of last week that my brain ain't braining as well as I used to brain. So I wrote down notes to make sure I hit everything that I wanted to. And doing some research on my guest today, I found out that he is an Emmy Award winner, as well as is it additional 2-time nominee, or are you a 3-time nominee? I don't know how the proper wording would be.
Yeah, I guess 1-time winner, and then just as for a project specifically that I worked on, and then there's a couple in there for like group projects, being a part of a show. In this case, Good Morning America won a couple of times when I was part of it. So they kind of like group us all into that. So it ends up being sort of a group award.
So, and co-author on 3 Star Wars books, although one hasn't been released yet, from what I could tell.
That's right. Yeah, coming in February.
And a whole host of other Star Wars credentials. It's Clayton Sandell.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. And I know you had Jason. Jason Fry is a hard act to follow. And talking about his map, I have. I know this is sound only, but I have the map, the previous version of his galaxy map right behind me, which I've been referring to repeatedly for a project I'm working on right now. But he's awesome and did so much work on this thing, and it's really cool to see it out there.
Yeah, no, that's what we talked about. Him getting it published up onto the interwebs.
Yeah, it's great,
especially because you co-wrote Timelines with him, and that's they DK released that special printing of the map for Celebration Anaheim.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I talked to Kristen, Jason, and Kevin at Celebration. I have not actually gotten to meet you up until this point right now.
Yeah, well, it's nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll cross paths at Celebration 27. How's that?
I will definitely be there. That's
excellent.
International travel, I don't know, especially nowadays. But to California, I can do California.
Yeah.
So I was looking back, and at least in your Wikipedia entry, your first major Star Wars thing was the ABC, was it Good Morning America, where you did the tour of Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland? It was Disneyland, but it was before the park opened, I think.
Yeah. I had done a couple of visual effects type features with ILM on Rogue One and a couple other things, but and Solo. But yeah, that was sort of a big one for us. We got to go and kind of tour Galaxy's Edge before it was open. This was a few months before, and kind of walk through Rise of the Resistance when it was still kind of being put together and was more or less a construction site, and they didn't have there was no concrete anywhere in Galaxy's Edge, so and it was raining in Southern California, of course, that particular week. So we were just like tromping through the mud to kind of get a bit of a preview of the whole thing. But the Millennium Falcon was there and in place, and nothing else mattered at that point. We kind of like walked up, we rounded the corner where you first see it through that archway, and I think a bunch of us sort of like just instantly teared up. when we saw it. And then we went back when it actually opened up and did a whole pulled a complete all-nighter and shot and edited like a 20-minute, I forget how long it ended up being, kind of preview of Galaxy's Edge, where we went through all the trivia, interviewed all the people, and shot a bunch of video and threw it together. But it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that was sort of the first major one. Although I will say I think it was the year before that we did the Force of Sound, which was a sound design
Okay.
documentary that we did about and with the sound designers on The Last Jedi. So Matt Wood and Ren Kleiss were in it. We kind of spent a couple days with them up at Skywalker Ranch, talking about everything they did for The Last Jedi. And Ryan Johnson was nice enough to sit down with me, and we put him in there too. So yeah, it was kind of a fun period where we were working on a lot of big Star Wars projects.
That's right. I guess numbers are also not my strong suit.
Hey, it's all a blur. No,
it does list the Force of Sound as coming out before.
It does. It does all blur together sometimes. I don't blame you. I have the same issue.
No, that's yeah, I watched the Galaxy's Edge one. I've been to Galaxy's Edge a few times, but I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. And it actually really is interesting because having been there, you can kind of pick out like what's going on in the background too. And
Yeah.
And like when you're doing the interview, there's random cast members just standing around. they're clearly, yeah, you need to stand here and make it look like you're doing something.
Yeah. Practicing their bright sun's greetings and all of that, and getting into the story. Yeah, no, it's pretty great.
Yeah, the Rise of the Resistance part you mentioned wasn't in the released that I saw, at least.
That's right, because it was not open yet. They were still tweaking. I forget how long it was. It was a couple of months, I think, before.
It was a bit after it first opened.
Yeah, it was a while, and it was kind of a bummer because we had been in it and we had seen it and we had seen how impressive it was. But yeah, it has proven to be a technical challenge to this day. So I think they were trying to figure out how to make it work, and that's why it was a little bit delayed. But well worth it if you can get there and ride it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I still stand by that. It is one of the best Disney rides, hands down, regardless of any property.
I agree. Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
But only if it's running properly, because right. I've gone where they started me on the little mousetrap cars. Like that was the start. They skipped everything up until that point, and you just
really?
Yeah, and then I've also gone where they kicked us off right before the cars. Like you did everything up until the cars, and then they walked you out because the cars weren't working. And
no kidding. Yeah, we were there just a couple of weeks ago, actually, and everything was working. Like there were, reports about the various reports about things not working, like the lightsaber, like Kylo Ren's lightsaber when it comes through the ceiling and all of that. Everything was working. The cannons were working. That effect was working. Everything was working right as it should. So it's nice. It has the ability to function the way it's designed. It just doesn't always.
It's one of the. It's like one of those. They're like, we made this a little too complicated.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of it's untested, and a few months after it opened and it was sort of known for breaking down. I did put that question to Scott Trowbridge once, one of the Disney guys who creative executives there who was in charge of this, and and that was basically his answer, is that we're using such cutting edge stuff that we've never used before in this particular combination, in this particular type of storytelling, that sometimes I had a TV director at ABC one time tell me that it's like digital. It's all zeros and ones, but sometimes you get a two.
I've never heard it put that way, but that makes I can you can see that actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is impressive. I love it. It's so much fun. And yeah, I'm glad it's there.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite things. So timelines. What was your section in timelines?
My section was more or less the Age of Rebellion, and it was funny because I kind of joined that project a little bit late. There were others, Jason and Cole and Kristen Baver and Amy Rickow were already kind of on it when I joined. I'm pretty sure I was the last person to join, and it was very. It was late summer of 2021, and they asked me if I wanted to do this Age of Rebellion, and I thought, yeah, that's great because that deals with all of the era that felt like I was most familiar with, the original trilogy films and everything. That 5 year basically period up to the
also the
battle.
one where you literally have everything thrown at the kitchen sink that's possible.
Well, that's what I discovered because it is such, it's the oldest bit of Star Wars storytelling that's out there. We're super familiar with that era, but what I didn't realize was just how many comics, for example, take place in that period, between every movie, after every movie, it was just felt a lot of times like drinking from a fire hose as I'm going through, trying to catalog and organize all these stories. And I was roughly familiar with a lot of them. But there were a number of them that I had not read, and novels too. Some of the books I had not read. So yeah, it was a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And
you were the only one. Everybody else was like, let's give this pun to the new guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will say, I think Cole Horton had it the worst because he was doing the High Republic era when
as it was coming out.
And that's always hard because you would think that they would whoever the powers that be would give us access to all these things in advance. Not the case. We sometimes got some early galley copies of some things, but for the most part we also had to kind of wait until things came out. So a large percentage of what he was doing was not even out yet, which made it really challenging. I had a few books that hadn't been out, but was able to kind of get some early PDF copies of them, so that helped. But yeah, it was a lot, but it was great, and I actually I appreciated being able to go in and learn about read these stories and understand and get more context. And I love the whole War of the Bounty Hunters series and arcs. But yeah, it ended up being a lot more work than I thought. But everybody kind of had that same experience. It was just a lot of things and organizing them into a timeline. I know you do this too. It can be tough trying to put these things into the right context.
No, yeah, I have my own timeline, and the Timelines book has been a huge help to knowing, at least I assume, if you put something in the wrong place, somebody will tell you, yeah, actually that's a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and we were all as we were working on it and trying to place things, and some of it's really hard, and sometimes it comes down to things like, well, this comic has Lando wearing this particular cape, which we saw in another play. Like, that's how some of these things come down, and it's not just us. We're working with the editors at DK, but also very importantly working with the story group over at Lucasfilm. And so they're taking a look at everything that we do and either telling us, yeah, we think that's right, or no, you may have missed it. Let's put it here, or in a lot of cases, just estimating where things go because maybe they really there's no evidence one way or another where it should go, and so you get some estimated dates in there as well, which is fine. But that's ultimately the really nice thing about it is that even some of the authors kind of look at each other's work a little bit, and then story group and editors and all of that. And so it's a nice, you don't feel like you're out there all alone. And so far, as far as I know, you know the internet. People are not shy about telling you when you screwed something up, and so far
I
I haven't.
don't understand what you're talking about. I
Yeah,
haven't run
I know.
across that with the internet.
Yeah, yeah. So far, nobody, as far as I can tell, or at least as far as I've heard, I think we got it right. So that's a nice feeling. And of course, as they add more Star Wars projects come out, I mean, there's been a ton of stuff even since this book came out in 2023. It'll be sort of a growing, ongoing, updatable kind of volume. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, that's so when you're there's a lot of stories where it's minute things where you're like, I remember looking at comics going, this should probably be later in the Clone Wars because Anakin has longer hair, which
Right.
when you go about it, the artist sometimes doesn't care. They just liked the look of Anakin's longer hair, and that is literally the only reason he had longer hair in it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's but that's funny. That's sort of the kind of thing that gets taken into consideration with these things when it's really not clear and hard to tell. It's like there's this almost forensic examination of things exactly like that to kind of pin them down, and so it's kind of fun.
How was this your first like Star Wars written project? Because I know obviously as a oh, the word, this is why I write things down, the words are escaping me. As a like journalist, that's the
Yeah.
word I was looking for.
Uh-huh.
As a journalist, I know you've written other things, but this seems much different from that.
Yeah, I had written I had written a few things when I started doing kind of Star Warsy coverage for ABC News. I would occasionally write things, and I would kind of dive into bits of the fandom that I found interesting. I wrote a big feature on Pink Shorts Boom Guy, who I don't know.
I saw that.
Ken Nightinghall, who was the boom operator in the original Star Wars film, who is sort of infamously captured in tiny pink booty shorts, work boots, no shirt, holding the boom mic in Tunisia when they were shooting those scenes out in the desert. And I was fascinated with him because he has become this guy that people will cosplay at.
Yep.
And
that's the best. It's like one of those, like there's so many people will go as under the radar cosplays, and it's one of those you look at him and you go,
yep.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah,
but you know,
exactly.
you know.
Right. And I this was like 2019. It was Chicago when I first saw them, and I was like, what are they doing? Like I didn't quite get it, and so I sort of dug into it and just found the whole thing fascinating, and so tracked down Ken's son, who put me in touch with him, and Ken is sadly has since passed away, but I had a brief conversation with him about it, and it was great. So yeah, stuff like that. I would write feature articles and things in addition to the TV pieces that we were doing, and yeah, but timelines came about in that summer of 2021, and it was my first thing ever, and I book project, and of course I knew I knew I was friends with Kristen Baver and Amy Rickow, but I had never met or talked to Jason or Cole, and so it was really fun to be a part of that group. And one of the most fun things we ever did was sign. We've signed together a few times at celebrations, and the first big one was London when it came out, and then well, we signed the poster in Anaheim in 2022. And what was cool about that was it was the ones that I did, it was like Cole, Jason, and myself, and that was super fun. But then what was really cool is that next year in London, people brought their posters that the three of us had signed the year before and came back with their posters to have Kristen and Amy sign it
Oh, that's
in
cool.
London. It was just like really, really neat. Like people really, the project just resonated with a lot of people, and I think between the book and the galaxy map, people just really love that stuff. So it was really fun to kind of meet all of the folks who were so enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, that's what I got mine signed by. I my entire life is under construction.
Uh-huh.
And so this isn't actually going to be my office, so a lot of my stuff is still packed away. But
Gotcha.
my poster is somewhere, and I got it signed by I think Kristen, Jason, and Cole.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Who I've known them three for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And so that was nice to get them to sign it.
Well, if you ever come to Colorado, Amy and I are both here, so we can round
That's-
out the signing.
Yep, I had Amy on the show maybe last year.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, she's very nice, a lot of fun as well.
Great people. Yeah, really fun.
Yeah, no, that entire group, like, there's not a bad egg among you there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very lucky. It's a neat community, and we tend to people tend to be really supportive and sort of celebrate each other's wins and promote whatever we have going on, and it's really cool. It feels very very much like a little publishing author kind of mini family, actually.
I've noticed that the as more people kind of join your ranks, you all are promoting each other's work, and I'm like, that's really cool. I really like that.
Cool.
So the other two books you have on your listing, like I said, one's come out, one is set to come out. Return of the Jedi, a visual archive, and then the Phantom Menace, also a visual archive. What are those about?
Yeah, so what I love about the visual guides, both of them are Inside Editions published projects. What I really love about them is that I am a huge behind the scenes guy. Like I love the Star Wars stories. I love all the fictional stuff, but for me, I really got into the behind the scenes stuff after Return of the Jedi left theaters, in 1983, and I kind of thought everything was over. And so I would start reading, Cinefex magazine and Cinefantastique and all those behind the scenes publications, and I just loved all of that stuff. And Jedi kind of the Jedi book kind of gets into that aspect of things. So it's going back into the archives, and they've pulled it's a discussion of costumes, concept art, the models, helmets, you name it. And we kind of go through each of those and talk about things like how Jedi influenced Star Wars projects that came later, through a very visual way. So obviously, being a visual guide, it's super photo heavy, and they've gone back and found a whole bunch of stuff, a few things here and there that even I hadn't seen, but also some really clever stuff that I didn't know they were going to be doing until I actually got the physical copy of the book. For example, during the filming of the Endor battle scenes, this happens in every movie, but they take continuity photographs so they can take a picture of somebody in their costume so they know how to put it together again if they have to film something later down the road. And they included a bunch of basically little Polaroids of rebel soldiers in their gear. There's like 4 or 5 Polaroids that you can pull out of the book and flip through them. They're the exact same size. They look just like a Polaroid, and you can kind of see how they put all these costumes together. There's another fun one that is probably my favorite one. There's a letter that Warwick Davis has talked about in the past where he, as a kid, after Return of the Jedi, wrote this letter to George Lucas, and he's 10, 11 years old, whatever it was. And it's so funny because it's the handwritten letter, which they've pulled out of the archives and reprinted in the book. He's talking to George Lucas, and he says, he opens the letter by saying, dear Mr. Lucas, I hope you remember me. I helped out with the making of Return of the Jedi, and it's so funny. And it was basically he was writing George to ask if he minded sending him a few Star Wars toys. And so there's like a whole bunch of fun little Easter eggs, little visual things like that, a bunch of fold out pages. So it's a lot of fun. And like I said, we kind of go into costumes and concept art, a lot of it that was not used, ultimately realized for Jedi, like the Emperor's lava-filled throne room, and some cities that ended up being recycled, reused to basically become Coruscant in the prequels. So it's a lot of different cool things if you're interested in behind the scenes stuff and how it all came together and how it influenced projects that came after. So like things like the folding wing shuttles in
I
Star
love those.
Wars. When we first saw that in Jedi, and now that is an absolute Star Wars hallmark of every in every production. There's something where the wings fold up
the ship
down.
the ship morphs somehow.
Yeah, the ship morphs, and it's from Jedi to Bad Batch. It's great to kind of
That's,
so we kind of
Ahsoka's ship is like one of my favorites, where the whole ship rotates.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of tracing a little bit of the book is tracing sort of the lineage of Return of the Jedi designs throughout Star Wars. Everything from folding wing shuttles to the red royal guards, and how that gets picked up over and over. So it's really neat. It's a fun kind of exploration of all things Jedi. And then the Phantom Menace one, which is coming out in February. I want to say February 10th. That could be wrong.
I just had it up here. Yeah, February 10th.
That one is basically the same idea, and I have not seen the final version of it yet, so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure the very clever editors and graphic designers and people at Insight will have gone through and pulled some fun stuff to include in that one as well. So it's fun to work on those things and go back and relearn and kind of try to become more familiar with how these films were made. It's just fascinating to me how it all comes together. So hopefully there will be more of them. I don't know if there are plans for more. I would assume that at some point they would want to do all the films. So we'll see. But yeah. Those two at least will be here and on your shelf together.
Regardless if you know if they're going to be more or not.
Yeah.
We don't know if there'll be more or not.
We don't know. Yeah, I don't know if somebody knows. I certainly don't know. But if I had a vote, I would be pushing for more.
Yeah, and I want to call out also, you have co-authors on this one as well. Kelly Knox, who I have not met yet. But
Amazing. ST Bende, yep.
Bende, yep. We had her on the show.
Oh,
a
good.
couple months ago, and she's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Both of them are great. Both of them are such sort of pillars in the fandom who have done so much stuff beyond the the many books that they've both written. They're just sort of these bright spots in the fandom that
They
I'm
just seem
I'm glad they're there.
happy. Like
Yeah.
there's just always something to be said about someone who is just relentlessly happy.
Yeah, and fortunate to be doing this. It's sort of I still sort of pinch myself that I have my name in an actual Star Wars book that sits on my coffee table. It's just like um it's a bizarre thing to think about my 10-year-old self when I was just a hardcore fan of all of this stuff, but to be able to contribute to it, I think when you talk about that sort of happiness or fortunate feeling that comes from that, I think that's where it's from because it's just like, I never would have thought that I would have been asked to work on a single Star Wars book project, much less a few of them now. So yeah, we're just really, really lucky and fortunate. And like I said, I've made some of my best friends in the Star Wars sphere from working on these projects. And it is sometimes when it gets like really, really tough and crazy and we're dealing with a lot and dealing with deadlines and trying to hit everything we need to hit in the right amount of time. And it's nice to have that kind of support system there where we have multiple group texts going at one time where we're sort of
It's
like,
nice when
oh, I'm
everybody's
dealing with
complaining at the same
yeah,
time.
everybody's complaining at the same time. Everybody is sharing their horror stories, and so it's really great. But yeah, everybody that I've worked with in this space is kind of like that. Just feels really fortunate to be there and wants to help and support everybody else.
I also have my name on a Star Wars book, but it begins with property of.
Oh, there you go. Yes, that's a start. There you go.
Yeah. So there's another topic. I know Nicole really wanted to talk about this.
Sure.
Unfortunately, Nicole wasn't feeling well today, and so she can't be here. But I did want to bring it up because it is important, and it really changed. Reading the articles that you had written on this really changed my personal understanding of the history of. I'm talking about Jake Lloyd.
Sure. Yeah.
So to kind of give a little bit of background, you had done an article with Scripps News.
Yeah. Yep.
Back posted it was posted March 11th, 2024. Basically you were interviewing Lisa Lloyd, who is Jake Lloyd's mother.
Yes. And I had just to back up just a little bit, what sort of prompted this article or the idea, at least for the article, was Celebration Anaheim 2022, when if you remember, it was sort of everywhere. The moment that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor came out on stage together for what was really the first time since the prequels in that way, right? And there was this tremendous outpouring of support and love in that room. People were so excited that they were there together. Um, it felt like after all of the sort of toxicity they went through with the prequels at the time, this felt really different. This felt like the positivity and just the support in that room was overwhelming. And so it got me sort of thinking about, okay, these two guys are sort of now getting their flowers for for their work in the prequels, and people were excited that they were back in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's just got me thinking about Jake Lloyd, because at that point we hadn't heard anything from him really since his family put out a statement after he was arrested in like 2015. So it had been a while, but since we had heard anything about him, and that kind of started me down the road of well, maybe I can track down his mom or somebody, a family member, and we can maybe try and get an update. Well, you mentioned that article came out in 2024. I started reaching out to his mom right after Celebration Anaheim. So it basically took almost 2 years to get to know her, to earn her trust, and to get to a point where she felt comfortable with me talking about all of these really difficult things her
It's
that
that
she and
that's
Jake had to
huge
go
too,
through.
because this isn't light. This
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
like,
It's
uh,
right. It's
oh, something so, like he got a little bit of bad press, and so like he kind of got shy. No, this is heavy stuff that
yeah.
they are dealing with in their family.
Yeah, and to just in case people haven't read or don't know what's going on with him, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it caused him at one point to basically drop out of college, and it was really rough because in addition to the schizophrenia diagnosis, he also had a diagnosis called anosognosia, which is
Thank you for
essentially
pronouncing that.
yeah, which essentially is you don't understand, you can't comprehend that you are ill. So what that means is, in Jake's case specifically, his mom said that because he didn't believe he was sick, he wouldn't take the medications that he needed to treat the schizophrenia symptoms, and so things just sort of got worse and worse and started to spiral and to the point where she told the story about how they were driving home one day and Jake got uh really agitated and they were stuck in traffic, and it ended up he's like stopped the car in traffic and the police showed up, and uh he uh he basically checked into a mental health facility very soon after that, and through a lot of work and therapy and a desire to get better, he got back on his medications, got back into regular therapy, and has gotten back on track and is doing pretty well. There was a point where his mom said he had basically become nonverbal, wasn't talking much at all, and when he would talk, sometimes there was like a word he would sort of speak in a word salad, like his sentences didn't make any sense, and now we still keep in pretty regular touch. And now she says they go to the movies more regularly now. They're kind of back to their regular routine. He can because that was they loved going to the movies together, and but it got to a point where he couldn't didn't have the
Focus.
attention span to
Yeah.
sit there, yeah, for 2 hours. And now that's back. They're back to being able to enjoy that kind of stuff. And so um, I think it's still a long road ahead. I don't know, I don't know what his prognosis or ultimate plans will be, but it overall has a more positive feel to it, his situation, than I think um, I would have expected. So it's nice. It was nice to sort of tell that story finally and get it out there. And I'll tell you, that one and then the follow-up that I did in December, both of those articles, I don't think I've ever gotten more response from people who reached out to say, please pass along, and I did every single one. Please pass along that how much we love Jake and um, support him, and would love to see him back out at a con or a celebration someday, and which may happen. You never know. But yeah, there was just
Not in the near
again,
future. That
Probably not in the near future, but I I don't know. I'm not sure, but it was nice to see. It was nice to see sort of that outpouring that I saw for Ewan and Hayden, kind of be expressed by people once they, which I knew was going to happen, but it was nice to see it, and they appreciated it. Both Jake and his mom appreciated hearing from people that had read the articles, and of course, it got a lot of pickup in a lot of the other Hollywood trades and places I didn't expect. But so which I think was again kind of a reflection of how much people care about him, and wanted to see him do well, do better.
Yeah, no, I did. It was heartening because all that had filtered down to me before, obviously, you did this article, because this article was much after his arrest back in 2015.
Right.
Was that there was some issue where there was a car chase and he was arrested, and that was pretty much the only thing that really got filtered in.
Yeah.
And then like the news cycles going off of just that,
Right.
you get none of the mental illness aspect of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't realize that, he spent 10 months in that county jail in North Carolina, because he was an adult. So there was his parent, his family had no power to sort of step in and say, give him this medication, make him take that would help him sort of get back on track. So he was in jail, wasn't answering the phone, wasn't communicating with them, and so it was nearly. It was extremely frustrating. Lisa Lloyd, his mom was writing him notes in jail, trying to convince him to take his medication, or to allow the lawyer that they had hired to act on his behalf, and they were desperately trying to get him the help that he needed. Try and get the sheriff, the county there, to get him to a mental health facility, and all of that took 10 months, and so he sat in county lockup for 10 months due to the mental illness part of it.
And trying to get like a power of attorney. Doing a power of attorney when nothing is going on is difficult enough. When all of a sudden you're throwing this in, you get the questions of, why are you doing this now, sort of thing. And it just makes it 10 times harder.
10 times harder. And I think a real credit goes to Lisa for not giving up. I mean, she just was so tenacious, and just exhausted every avenue to help her son, and ultimately was able to do that. It just took a while, and she's obviously continued with that ever since, keeping him getting him into these facilities, and making sure that he's on track and getting the help that he needs.
She sounds amazing.
Yeah, she's awesome.
As a special needs parent myself, I understand. I can get into her mindset of what she's going through. Like, obviously, my situation is different than hers, but it's still, you have a parent, and you're literally trying to do anything and everything you can.
That's right. Yeah.
To get your kid where they need to be.
That's right. It's job number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, I know this. I'm gonna look up what Nicole had mentioned, because
Sure.
What Nicole's one of her most notable things that you were able to do is not only build the trust to the first report, but that you had a follow up with the mother, which was even like bigger than the first news report, because now she feels that you were, what you had put out in the world was accurate enough and trustworthy enough. Now that Jake even wanted to talk to you, in your follow up, you had posted on your Substack. I don't know if it came out somewhere else as well.
Yeah, no, that was a Substack only. It was I had basically planned to follow up 6 months later, and got a little delayed with that. But I had called her. I had called Lisa one day just to kind of check in and see how things were going, and because Jake was in an inpatient facility that I knew he was due to check out of in November. So that's why I waited, I guess. And so I called her in early December just to check in and see how things were going. And um, she said, yeah, I'm happy to chat and do a follow-up. But she goes, Jake would actually like to talk to you. And I said, wow, okay. Not going to turn that down. And so I think it was a couple days before Christmas, like December 22nd or 23rd. He called me and we had a brief conversation, probably was 10 minutes or so, where he expressed appreciation to the fans. It was very nice to kind of hear his voice, after everything that his mom had talked about, and to to sort of see and hear with my own voice where he had gone from to where he was and is today. It kind of just felt very encouraging, I guess was the word. And so it was nice. It was nice to hear from him and to have him actually speak out, which was great. And yeah, and I will continue to sort of check in with them as needs kind of warrant. I think that like I said, he's continuing. He's out of the inpatient facility, but he's still in fairly routine care where he can come and go basically as he pleases. But is continuing with all of that. So yeah, hopefully things get better and he kind of has a measure of control that he hasn't had in a while, and that yeah, his family and he and his mom kind of continue living as normal life as possible. And it's funny because his mom says and again back to this idea that sort of the negative reaction to him and his performance and the Phantom Menace in general, the idea that sort of drove him out of acting, or and that he hates Star Wars. His mom says nothing could be further from the truth, and that she made sure that when he was a kid and those movies came out, she said, he didn't have a phone, there was no screens, like kids have today. And she goes, I protected him pretty well from a lot of that. Yes, he got some bullying at school because you can't be with him 24 hours a day. But she said his memories, his fondness for making the Phantom Menace, she goes, he loved it. He loved making the Phantom Menace. He wears Star Wars t-shirts. She buys him Star Wars action figures. They were watching Ahsoka together. Like he likes all of it. And so I said, well, the obvious next question is, do you think he will ever come back to the Star Wars world, appearing in some fashion? And she said not right now, but she wouldn't rule it out. Like it may be something down the road, but it's not her or his priority at the moment. But yeah, that love of Star Wars has never gone away for him.
That's what I wanted to touch on this too, because there's people need to keep in mind he was in third grade roughly, 8 years old, or
8, 9 years
maybe
old.
Fourth grade, fifth grade, in that range. Because and even now, there's not many kids who are going to have cell phones in the lower elementary schools. I know, like my daughter definitely didn't. Now is a different time than even when she was in those grades. But like his situation is much different than Ahmed Best's situation, where Ahmed Best was an adult, was interacting with the online community. And I think his mom, or Jake Lloyd's mom, did right by him. Yeah, he's going to get bullied. The kid would get bullied just for being in the movie in general. Like he could have been like Shakespeare level, like the best actor on the planet. The kids are still going to make fun of him just for being in the movie. Like,
yeah, exactly. And So yeah, it was one of those things where she said, he was out playing with his friends. He was largely shielded from all of that. And obviously as he got older and people got more online and he got more online, there was some of that. But yeah, it was really the illness. And she also said that, he was just not in terms of acting, he had gotten to a point where the family, his parents were going through a divorce at the time, and he just wasn't having as much fun auditioning anymore. And so it was sort of this combination of factors that took him out of Hollywood and out of trying to have a career on camera. Um, so, like anything, it's a lot more complex than it played out in the tabloids and in discussion forums online. It was a combination of factors that drove him out of the profession, and you know, a lot of that gets lost sometimes in the online discourse.
Yeah, I wanted to quote the Substack article at the end of it. I really liked this one section that you wrote. It said, Jake tells me he hasn't watched any Star Wars movies or shows lately, but says he intends to get back to that soon. I'm holding out for May the 4th with my mom, he says. Lisa confirms the plans. It will be a Star Wars day, as always, she says, but I think this year we're getting t-shirts.
Yeah, she gets some t-shirts. She had gone to Disneyland, I think, last time and had gotten him a Star Wars t-shirt that he really liked. And they were, Phantom Menace, when it came back to theaters, um, I I know that they had talked about maybe going to see it. I don't think they were ever able to make the schedule work, but they were talking about it. So yeah, he still likes it. I know they did watch Ahsoka. And yeah, they're sort of it's never gonna be something that's not part of their lives. And as she says that he still occasionally will get recognized at a restaurant or something.
That's hysterical because
Isn't that
like
funny? Because yeah,
it's
he's
8-year-old me versus 40-something-year-old me.
oh
No,
yeah.
I wouldn't even recognize me. Like,
No, yeah, you're right. I think you have to be sort of you really paying attention and a big Jake Lloyd fan to recognize him today. I guess pictures. Well, they were nice enough to give me a couple pictures of him that were recent. But yeah, same thing. I would have, if he'd have walked past me on the street, not in a million years would I have said, "Oh, that's Jake Lloyd."
yeah, like that. Yeah, like the picture
No.
that you had up. He's holding an Ahsoka figure. But he has a beard. Like as 30-something-year-olds would have. And yeah, like I never personally would ever think, what would that 8-year-old look like with a
Right,
beard?
right. Exactly. So, my secret hope is that, one day he will, at least make an appearance, a brief appearance at a celebration, for example, or maybe there will be a cameo or something in the background of a series or a film. I think that would be great. I think it would be a nice bookend and just a nice thing to do in general, or to have happen in general. That's my secret hope. I have no vote in the matter, and have no idea what the future will bring. But I think it would be great for Jake to get his flowers as well.
I think so, and I think he would because before Celebration Anaheim, that was, I think, maybe it was Chicago. It was right around the time of The Last Jedi came out.
Yeah.
And The Last Jedi, I came out of The Last Jedi. It was, honest to God, my favorite Star Wars film ever. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I still love it. I still think it's my favorite. But the online vitriol made me concerned about going to Celebration.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a common feeling among a few people that I knew. Yeah,
But when you get there, you realize those people aren't here.
right, right. And I still feel like, yeah, every time I go to some event that is Star Wars centric, you realize the minority opinion um, is very loud, but it is still the minority opinion, and there's so much more sort of positivity and things that about Star Wars that bring people together
Hmm.
that than drive them apart. I was just in Tampa for a Tampa Bay Comic Convention, and I was walking the floor actually right next to kind of where we were doing some book signings. Some of the droid builders came by with with a chopper and R2D2 and all that, and to watch the little kids see these droids walk up, and the droid builders are amazing, as you know. A kid comes up and talks to R2D2. They have all the sounds they can
Yeah.
make, and they can totally carry on a conversation with,
On
a
demand,
6 or 7 year old on demand,
they're ready to go.
and it is a full-on back and forth conversation. And to see, the moments like that blow me away, where the kids come up and that interaction at 5, 6, 7 years old, whatever age they are, and seeing the smiles on their faces and the big wide eyes when they're talking to R2D2 or interacting with Chopper, that is a core memory that they are never going to forget. And it's incredible to me that kids are still kind of getting that experience 50 years, almost 50 years after that
Hmm.
original film came out. It's just so cool. And I think there are a lot of moments like that in the fandom that I think make it still pretty great. And if you can, there's yeah, there are some sort of toxic clickbaiters out there that know that they can get clicks by kind of crapping on everything all the time, and going after people. But I think for the most part, when you get into the real world and real fandom and sort of the casual Star Wars fan and all that, I think it's a much different place. And so I
Yeah.
have to remind myself that of that sometimes, just sort of like get offline and you know.
Like when you just think about how expensive it is to go to a celebration. You got your plane ticket first off. You got the hotel stay. You got the cost of the tickets to get in the convention,
Right.
and all the money, all the food.
Mhm.
They aren't going to be spending that money because they hate the thing so much. Like it's just not worth it. And so it's really just the people who are willing to spend the money that love it so much. And you just got to remind yourself, like, no, this is going to be, it's one of those, like I said, I was hesitant, but when I got there, I was much relieved. And it's one of those, like, you got to go knowing that this is where the good people are.
Yeah, and it's great, and all of the like the work that you do and your fellow podcasters that are out there. Everybody kind of has their own different kind of angle and interest, and that's cool to kind of see how what speaks to people. Whether it's the books or the animated series or just the films or whatever. There are a lot of on-ramps to the Star Wars highway, and it is cool. If you haven't ever been to a celebration, or you haven't been somewhere, even like here in Colorado, we did Star Wars night at the Rockies game, and that's cool. Like I had this shirt on, which if you're listening, I had made. It's an Andor deep cut Andor reference. It just says deep substrate foliated calcite on it, and I wore this shirt to Rockies night, Star Wars night, and walking around, I've never had more like comments, just people out of like this really deep cut random reference. People are like, "Oh man, great shirt, great shirt." It's just like you walk through, and I can think of few fandoms where you can sort of have that interaction with people and just have this instant connection with a stranger over a deep cut reference from Andor. But it happens, and it happens all the time, and I just think that is so much fun. There was another guy at a hotel. I wore this at the hotel during San Diego Comic-Con, and my son wanted to go down to the pool, so we went down to the pool, and we opened the gate to the pool and walk in, and we walked past this couple who were sort of off to the side, and there were other kids and stuff. And as we're walking by this couple, I just hear this voice say, "Calcite." Yeah. So it's my interactions with the fandom have been overwhelmingly positive, and the people that I just ignore the ones that are trying to stir up trouble and toxicity, and have been fairly successful at blocking them out, but also making sure that the really bad toxic stuff kind of gets called out, and so I think that's important too.
So, all right. I don't want to keep you forever, but I did want to ask, Nicole had one final question that I wanted to ask you. Going back to kind of journalism in general, along with your conversation with Jake Lloyd. She wanted you to talk about how you feel the importance of trust as a journalist in conversations like that kind of plays a role.
I think it's everything in journalism, not just the sort of long-term relationships like this one that I have with Jake and his mom, but in everything. And it's really tricky these days because there are so many outlets, there are so many places where that sort of masquerade as news but aren't really news, and who can you trust and who can you not trust, and am I going to have to go Google to double check what I've just read all the time? And it sort of goes to sort of news literacy as well. But yeah, trust is hugely important. And the some of the biggest stories that I ever worked on in my career in journalism were ones where it required a huge amount of trust, because I did a big piece one time that had to do with a very tragic shooting that happened here in Colorado, and it took probably 6 months for that story, for me going back and forth trying to get the people who were involved to talk to us. And it's you really have to follow through on what you promise people, or because they are putting tremendous faith in you telling their story accurately to a huge audience. In my case, like every broadcast I worked for was multi-millions of viewers, and so that's a huge responsibility. Like, you don't want to screw that up. And they don't have you've never met these people before. They This story is in many cases their life story, and so yeah, you really, I just feel a tremendous responsibility to make sure that that people trust us, and that they know going in what the experience is going to be like, and that you have to put your faith in me to take a 2-hour interview and consolidate it down into a piece that's maybe 5 minutes long, and get the tone of it right, make sure it's fair, make sure the facts are obviously right. So
And not misconstrue what anybody's saying by taking a clip out of context.
Right. Things taken out of context are always tricky. So yeah, I trust was always a really important thing in my work. The other one was fairness, and I used to tell people, look, you may not you may not like the article or the TV story that we do, but number one, I want the facts to be accurate, but I also want you to feel that it was fair, like that we gave you every opportunity to say exactly what you wanted to say in the way you wanted to say it. And I think that people doing the work now, I'm not in journalism right now, but the people who are doing that work right now and continuing it on are it's hugely important and should be valued. And so I think that if you I think for anybody, I try to, again, getting back to news literacy, it's just like I hope that people are getting their news from trusted, reliable sources. It's hugely important.
That's I think one of the most important things any elementary school kid could learn is internet literacy.
100%. Yeah, completely agree.
Because that'll be something that sticks with you for the rest of your life, especially in nowadays, because we never got anything like that when we were kids.
No. I mean, we had, 4 or 5 sources of news, and that was it, right? Like there was not a lot of choices at the time. So now there's a million of them.
Yeah. All right. I think I don't want to keep you for too long.
Sure.
But I do want to give you a chance to promote anything you want to promote. How can people get a hold of you if you want to follow you online or anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram. It's just at Clayton Sandell, all one word. I'm also on Blue Sky, Clayton Sandell. One of the things that I've been doing for the last year, which is super fun, is, again, getting back to my interest in behind the scenes stuff. I am on the part of the editorial team that Industrial Light and Magic and Skywalker Sound have going, where we kind of dive into new projects, legacy projects. I'm working on a story, for example, about the Goonies turns 40 this year, and so we get to dive into that stuff. So those
no,
all
it doesn't. It's clearly 15 years old. I
15,
think
couldn't be any more than 15 at the most. So it's fun stuff like that. So those are all I usually post them on my socials too, but ilm.com and Skywalker Sound both are places where you can read that stuff. So that's really fun.
So, and you also have your own website. I don't think you mentioned it at ClaytonSandell.com.
Yep. I try to post everything there and at least kind of keep it current with projects I'm working on. So you can hit me up there and email me from there or message me online anywhere. Yeah.
All right. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had a great time chatting with you.
Absolutely. And we'll have to do it again when Nicole is back. Hopefully she's drinking her Bacta tea and bounces back quick.
Hopefully. Yeah, she's been very busy at work as well. And so she mentioned just being knocked out this morning. She needs to make sure that she rests so she can tackle work.
100%. Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and it was really good to chat with you. Thank you.
You as well. For us, you can find us on all the socials except for one. You can't find us on that one we won't talk about. At Talkin Tauntauns. You can find us on our website, talkintauntauns.com. You can email us, contact@talkintauntauns.com. Please leave us a 5-star review wherever good, bad, or indifferent reviews are left. And most importantly of all, share the show with a friend. And with that, we'll see you next time.